Hey now, Cabalists, and welcome to another episode of the Chris, Jamie, and Steve Show. It's been quite a while since we did one of these.
Yeah.
Well, we're back on the scene, and today we're going to be delving deep into the crypts. We're going to be unearthing some exploration board games, and we're going to be starting off with Chris's list. Let's do it.
All right, Cabalists, today we're going to explore exploration. And I guess what we should always do is quantify what we mean by exploration. And this is a topic I really wanted to discuss on, I almost said Steve and Friends. Oh my gosh, the Chris, Jamie, Steve Show. Because I love exploration games, and I think it's something we all really enjoy, is going out and exploring and flipping tiles and placing tiles and seeing what's out there. So it's a mechanism that I get really excited about.
Now, I think that we have to decide. Well, I don't know if we have to decide it or not, but exploration could mean a number of different things, because on my list, I put games that have the theme of exploration, but aren't that concept of flipping tiles and discovering new things. Now, there is some exploration in some of them, but we'll get to that when you get to my list. But I picked some games that, yes, they are delving into dungeons or whatever, but also have the theme of exploration.
Yeah, I was struggling because I was like, well, Eldritch Horror. You're going around to different locations. You're discovering stories that are happening there. That gives me a feel of exploration.
Sure.
But I wanted to kind of streamline my list down to going out and discovering a map.
Okay.
So I think both are equally qualify as exploration games.
Sure.
Sure, yeah. I tried to keep mine a little diverse.
me
Little
too.
of this, little of that.
Well, Chris didn't diversify his at
No,
all.
I'm streamlining.
Streamline.
I'm streamlining. That's right.
All right, so you're making a very simple style list here.
It's a very well thought out, simple list. Yes.
Okay. All right, then why don't you give us the number 3 on your top 3?
Okay, well, Cabalists, number 3 on my list is a game called Archipelago. And we have played this game many, many times. Lots of griping, lots of enjoyment. It's a game essentially where you're spreading your colony out across all these different little islands.
Pretty much a game of imperialism.
Yes, exactly. Well, yeah, and there's some contention there because you really are trying to keep the native population in check. So thematically, it can be questionable, but the mechanisms of the game are so cool because you move your ships out or move your people out to the edge of the tile, and then you go and you draw a new one. And this is what you discover, and you have to place it in a certain way. On the tile are different resources that you can use to garner the things you want to build. So you're hoping you get that one tile that really, really like sets you up. And I think it's fascinating that someone else might get the tile you really want.
Right.
So suddenly they become a target, right? And I think that's really fun. The mechanisms of the game where you have everybody has a hidden end game mechanic and scoring mechanic that will trigger it no matter who hits it. Everybody's kind of trying to guess what their scoring condition is and what's going to trigger end game. I think that's really interesting. I just have a lot of fun playing this game. It has a really cool trade mechanism. It's semi-co-op, like Steve said, which I love semi-co-ops. It's just sometimes it can be a little flaky, but I do come away every time having a good time playing this game.
Yeah, I think this game has a lot of great things in it and a lot of negatives to it. I think it's a game that really deserves a second edition that's revised, because definitely from an exploration standpoint, this is an amazing exploration game. You're busy with going out and finding the mountains and the forests and the resources that you need, and there's controlling those areas so that you can gain those things. And that's some of it is kind of the problem too, because later in the game it gets very difficult to find a tile that even fits, because you have to fit them together with the terrain pieces together. And there's not a whole lot of flexibility there. So late in the game, if you explore, you find nothing, and that's kind of lame.
It's a letdown for sure. I mean, a game that has a huge part of the game is exploring. When you explore and you can't place it, that's kind of a letdown.
This definitely has diminishing returns. You want to do most of your exploring in the beginning. You want to get the map set up, and then the longer you wait, the trickier it is. That you could get nothing. You could waste your turn, get pieces that don't fit anywhere, and that can be frustrating.
Thematically, though, it's spot on perfect. I mean, you got your ships sailing out, you unload your guys onto the board, and you move them out to explore the lands. Like thematically, it's like one of the best exploration games there is, just for that fact.
And we should point out that there is one card, because everybody has an end game goal. There's one card where you win if the natives have an uprising.
You're the traitor,
and we pretty much get rid of that. Like, because in that case, it's kind of a semi co-op.
Yeah, right.
There's one guy trying to mess everybody else up. We never enjoyed that one, but
Semi co-op with a traitor.
Yeah,
right.
So otherwise, I think it's a really fascinating game and one that we just don't play enough anymore. I think you're right. A second edition of this game would be great, just kind of like Merchants and Marauders. It's a good game, needs a second edition.
Right. All right, so what's your number 2, Chris? Lay it on us.
All right, so number 2 on my list is one of my favorite games of all time, and that is Eclipse. Eclipse is a space-faring 4X game where you play asymmetrical factions that have all kinds of different powers, and you're spreading your influence across the galaxy, fighting with your opponents, teching up, just building this giant empire of yours. And the cool part, again, why it fits in exploration, is you can take an action to explore a new tile, and you draw a new tile and you place it. It could be a dud, and then you got to figure out what to do with it, because you just went into this portion of space and you're like, here's this junk planet. How am I gonna use this? Or it could be this rich resource, the amazing system that now everybody else wants too. So now it's contentious and everybody's fighting over this resource. I also love the fact that there are 3 different stacks of exploration tiles. The further you get out, the diversity of the stacks changes. And with some of the expansions, you might unearth some ancient alien species that's going to now attack you. Very, very cool game. Lots going on here. The exploration is a big part of the game. I will say there's one faction I can't stand, which is the plant race. Because they explore and they place 2 tiles at once, which is nuts, because they can just create their own little sector. We always talk about Eclipse and say the plant race has to be kept in check, or else they'll just run away.
Well, I love any civilization game, and it seems like exploration is a huge part of any Civ game, right? They got the concept of 4X game, right? The 4 X's, and one of those X's is explore. And any game that is worth their salt has really awesome exploration, and Eclipse is another one. Like, I love exploring planets and discovering what those planets have to offer and the resources they can yield, and the aliens that they might that it might inhabit them, or the alien artifacts that you might find at those places. So it really does give you a feeling of discovery as you're flying through space, finding things.
Yes, I really enjoy that. The highlight for these games is flipping the tile over, seeing if you're gonna get a big boon or not. And like the plant people, they go through that stack like crazy. They can burn through. So yes, you need the weed whacker on standby.
Yes. Yeah. And I actually, when I play in one of the more militaristic races, because you get points based on winning combat, I actually like turning over a juicy tile, because I'm like, come and get me. Like, I want to win some battles. Like, let's go. Come and get this stuff. Now, when you're playing the weaker races that are more trade and stuff, then you're like, oh no, everybody's going to be heading over this way. Darn it.
There's a ton of diversity to that game,
Yes.
with all the different races and the factions and how they interact with the game in different ways, exploration and combat and resource production, that kind of stuff. So, Eclipse is a great game. And there's a second edition of Eclipse.
I know.
And we have not gotten it or played it at all, but I'm very excited to try that one.
I'm curious, because I love the first edition.
Yeah, I didn't find any problems with it, really.
It's such an amazing game. So I'm curious to see what the second edition provides,
And it's available on iOS and Android, I believe.
It is, yep.
So you can check it out on there, see if you want to buy the actual game.
Yep.
Great pick, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so your last one on the list.
All right, so
Give it up.
the number 1 on my list, which I dare say is probably going to be the best one here, because it's a game we all like, and it has the coolest exploration mechanics that change over the course of the game.
Okay.
Based on which story you're playing. That is Robinson Crusoe.
Yes. Okay, maybe you have the best one.
Ignacy,
I'm not sure, but maybe.
Ignacy Zevicek did an amazing job with this game, and it is so difficult. the thing that I love about the exploration is that you're sacrificing other actions to explore. And every action in this game, you're stranded on a deserted island. You have a goal, whether it's just to survive or find the cannibals or the witch doctors who are casting a spell on you or whatever. You have to do some exploring to...
Those are not deserted islands, Chris. If they have cannibals and wizards on them, they're not deserted.
Oh, that's
Wizards.
technicality. Technicality, Steve.
Yeah.
It's a desert island.
Oh, a desert-id island. Okay.
But you got to explore because you got to find the resources to make the tools that you're going to want to use to complete your storyline. But meantime, you have to get food, you have to hunt, you have to create a camp, you have to do all this other stuff so that you don't die in the process of exploring. So exploring in that game is necessary, but is also it's costly. You have to do it responsibly. It's not just willy-nilly run out there. Like sometimes in Archipelago, we just go out and explore like crazy. You can't do that in Robinson Crusoe.
I think that's one of the neat things about Robinson Crusoe is it's maybe like, at least for this list, right? Because the exploration is not a key element to the game, but it's something that's important in the game. And when you do it, you yield all these interesting things like different creatures that you can hunt, like tigers and deer, and sometimes you'll get bitten by a snake or something. So there are ramifications to the exploration as well, because as you're doing those things, things are happening.
Yeah.
It sounds to me like it's a chore simulator.
Get that shovel and dig a hole.
Yeah,
buddy.
really.
Come on, Chris.
Nah.
Cook that food.
I guess it's another co-op on my list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we like co-ops, some of us. And this is a really brutal one. I think I think you're right, Jamie. I think I like it because exploration is not all the game.
Yeah.
But it is one of many components of the game, and they are all important. So it's extra rewarding when you find what you want.
And just talking from an overall standpoint of this game specifically, I think this game is one of the most influential modern board games in the way that it uses its mechanisms. The cards that, you get a card and it's an event card and something happens and it gets shuffled back into the deck and later it comes back. Yeah. Like you get bit by the snake and later you get sick, or, you break your leg falling out of a tree trying to catch a banana.
Get a banana.
And later on your leg gets infected and all different things like that. So there's a story that progresses here that a lot of games try to have and don't have. So this game is, I think, a masterpiece design.
Yeah. Yep. So those are my three, right?
Yeah.
They are the best three, really. I can't wait to see what non-exploration games you guys have.
Well, they're the first three, at least.
Yeah, well.
Yep.
They're the best so far.
I've got to go patch my bucket and mend my hammock, so I guess we'll find out tomorrow.
Yes, we will find out tomorrow because Steve's going to take the reins and give us three of his favorite exploration board games. And until then, everybody, have a good one.
Later.
Giddy up.
Thanks so much, everybody. If you've enjoyed this video, please do us a giant favor by subscribing to the channel and clicking that wacky bell icon. If you're into board games, miniatures games, role-playing games, we have a bunch of audio podcasts you might enjoy. You can find those at thesecretcabal.com or on iTunes and Stitcher.